Kurt Cobain, the leader of one of rock's most gifted and promising bands, Nirvana, is dead.
After an accidental overdose on Rohypnol and champagne, which by the way was confirmed to be an accident by the doctor that treated Kurt in Rome, just bear that in mind for later, Cobain checked himself into the Exodus Recovery Center in LA. Courtney Love and his daughter Frances Bean visited him on the same day. But merely 24 hours later, Kurt actually climbed the 6-foot fence surrounding the rehabilitation center and escaped. He took a flight back to his hometown of Seattle. I don't know what that was, that's just to show you what a plane does. Seattle, entering a gun store. Ultimately ended his life. Cobain's wife Courtney Love hires private investigator Tom Grant, who you'll be hearing a lot about later, to help her locate Kurt. And then Kurt is once again spotted just wandering around Seattle. April 4th comes around and there are no reported sightings of him. Nobody knows where he is. Using a shotgun and with a system full of heroin, Kurt takes his own life. And 3 days later, on April 8th, Cobain's body is found by an electrician who was hired to install security lighting in the greenhouse. Courtney Love. You're going to be hearing that name a lot in this video. Sorry. Yeah, it's one of those videos. She herself is subject to hundreds of theories about the passing of Kurt Cobain. Many people think she had an involvement in it. Some people think it just was her. And some people think she knows something that she isn't telling us. And I'm going to show you why. It is very well known that close to the time of Kurt's passing that him and Courtney were already in divorce proceedings. As an account from Love's entertainment lawyer Rosemary Carroll states, Courtney had called me and asked me to hire the meanest divorce lawyer available, and stating that she was genuinely seeking to have the prenup her and Kurt had completely null and voided. Around that same time, Kurt had also requested to have Courtney Love taken out of his will. The pieces are coming together a little bit, huh? Or maybe just convenient timing. Who knows? With the prenup they already had set up, Love was set to lose out on her portion of the Nirvana fortune, which I think her chunk alone today would be worth around 250 million? Something like that? It's not an official source, so don't cite me on that, I don't know. But there's your motive. I sound so biased in this. It's supposed to be like from both sides, but... As I mentioned, on April 3rd, Courtney Love hired private investigator Tom Grant, requesting his help locating Cobain. Upon arrival to Courtney Love's residence, Tom Grant claims that the first thing that Courtney Love said to him was, and I quote, "You leak this to the press and I'll sue the fuck out of you." Charming. During the meeting, the PI secretly recorded the conversation, and he managed to record Courtney admitting to the following: planting a fake story in the press about her ODing just to grab the attention of Kurt, just not a good look, and calling Kurt's credit card company, claiming that Cobain's card had been stolen and needed to be cancelled. This was not true. His card had not been stolen. She just didn't want him to spend any money on it. And she says that's because she was scared about him buying a weapon. Like I said, I'm going to state statements at you all video, and this is for you to make up your own mind. And last but certainly not least, when Courtney Love filed the missing persons report, she did so under the name of Kurt Cobain's mother, not her own. Courtney then asked the investigators to search local hotels, stating that he would be in a fancy hotel and under the false name of Bill Bailey. But Cobain's best friend Dylan Carlson, who was actually helping the private investigator Tom Grant, stated to Grant that actually Kurt hated fancy hotels and he'd probably be staying in the cheapest, most dingiest one if he was staying in one at all. Just inconsistencies everywhere you look in this story. Doesn't paint a good picture, does it? Now, before I start this next bit, it is worth mentioning that Courtney Love was a heavy drug user, so statements and claims from her are bound to be contradictory. Did I say that right? Or far-fetched. But regardless of that, there's a running theme here. Courtney claims that Kurt was suicidal due to his stomach issues causing him constant pain 24/7. But that same year, Kurt was interviewed by Rolling Stone magazine, where he told them that since being prescribed the correct medicine for his stomach, he had not had any issues in over a year up to that point.
How's your stomach? Did you find anything to...
It's gone.
Yeah?
Yeah. I finally have been prescribed the right stomach medicine after 6 years of being in constant pain. Finally, I haven't had a stomach problem for like over a year now.
Also going on to say that he is now happier than he had ever been before. Now, of course, that statement alone doesn't disprove the fact that he was depressed or suicidal. Just because you say you're doing well doesn't mean you are. I do understand that. but still. She also claimed that Kurt tried to take his own life in Rome months prior. Now, as I said near the beginning of the video, the doctor that treated Kurt in Rome genuinely said that this case was an accident. Now, Courtney claims that Kurt had taken 60 pills with the intent of overdosing. Now, what really happened was Kurt was taking Rohypnol, which was used to subside the pain that he was having in his stomach. He had mixed that with champagne, and those two don't mix, so you know what happened next. Even when it was breaking news being shown in the media still stated that it was an accident. It was only Love that came out and said it was a suicide attempt. But before we stop talking about Courtney, I just want to show you this clip.
You did some deal with Courtney, right?
Yeah. She offered me 50 grand to whack Kurt Cobain. 50 grand to whack Kurt Cobain.
And that's a fact, is it?
When she offered me money, God dang, I wish I would have taken it, man. But I know who whacked him.
But how are you going to whack him? Did she tell you how to do it?
Yeah, blow his f***ing head off.
But where were you going to find him to do it?
I know right where the house is. I know right what garden to pop him in. I just didn't think she was serious.
But did she tell you how she wanted you to pop him?
Yeah, she says blow his f***ing head off. I got the shotgun.
That was Eldon Hoke, otherwise known as El Deuce, or El... No, I'm not even going to try. I'm going with El Deuce, okay, that's what he's called. An American musician and the frontman and drummer for The Mentors and a few other bands. Now, just 8 days after filming this interview for the documentary Kurt and Courtney, he was found dead on the railway line. Not just dead though, decapitated. After being hit by a train that was travelling 60 miles an hour. The official investigation concluded that he had a very high blood alcohol level at the time. Coincidence or just bad luck? As previously mentioned, Tom Grant was a private investigator hired by Courtney Love to locate Kurt Cobain for the duration of the days that he was missing, after escaping rehab. But Tom eventually ended up turning on Courtney Love, accusing her of having something to do with Kurt's untimely end, going as far to help a lending hand to the making of the documentary titled Soaked in Bleach, a documentary released in 2015 that heavily explores the theory of Kurt Cobain's death being a homicide. The evidence he had led to him accusing Courtney Love, something that he still very much stands by all these years later. In fact, if you watch the documentary, he seems like he's kind of obsessed. So yeah, a bit of advice here. If you've got a bit of a mystery on your hands and you think, oh I know, I'll hire a private investigator, don't. They'll just blame you. Kurt Cobain was discovered by electrician Gary Smith on April 5th, 1994. After police arrived, they alleged that the greenhouse door was pried shut using a stool, a statement that again would turn out to be a lie. Once entry was gained, the sight before them was one of Kurt Cobain's lifeless body, grasping onto an upside-down shotgun by the barrel. Now, this gun was a Remington Model 11 20-gauge shotgun. This is what it looked like, by the way. That's huge, which is approximately 45.5 inches long, or roughly around 3.7 foot. Kurt Cobain himself was 5'9". Now Kurt was found laying on the floor, meaning this is what it would have looked like. Okay, so like I said, the gun was around 45.5 inches or 3.7 feet. So I made a little replica of the gun. This is what it looks like. So only replica in size, okay, not in the way it looks. Now Kurt Cobain was around 5'9". I'm around 6'2". So if I put the gun at around where Kurt's feet would have started on me, this is how it looks. And let me just rotate the picture so it looks like I'm lying down, not standing up. There we go. Did that work? Probably not. But as you can see here, it would have been incredibly difficult for me, as someone who's sober, to even reach the trigger, which was approximately around here. So that's what it would have looked like. Worth mentioning too that obviously with the height difference, his arms would have been a bit shorter than me. But you get the picture. Anyway, back to me on the sofa. Now behind Kurt was his note. To his left side was his jacket, and on that jacket lay the casing of the shotgun shell that was used to take his own life. Now, bear that in mind. Once again, the shell landed on the left-hand side, okay? Near his feet lay the tin that he used to store his needles, with all of the needles neatly placed back in the tin, not scattered all over the floor like you would expect them to be. How did he do that? Again, I'm biased here, by the way, okay? And his wallet was also laid out to his side. It was widely reported that Kurt had placed his driving license on his chest prior to his death, so it would be easier to identify him. This is not true. Investigators on the scene removed his driving license from his wallet, placed it next to him, and then took a photo for evidence. Again, another lie. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, it would have been incredibly difficult for Kurt to pull the trigger lying down. His arms would barely have been able to reach, so he probably would have had to use his toes, right? How could he have done that if his shoes were on? But there is just one more thing that would have made it near impossible for him to pull that trigger. And that was what they found in his system. Toxicology reports state that Kurt's blood morphine level, I think that's the right measurement, was 1.52 milligrams per litre, which is how much heroin was in his blood basically. Now, to put that into context, around 5 milligrams of heroin equivalates to roughly 0.05 milligrams per litre. Most heavy or regular heroin users take roughly around 40 to 60 milligrams per sitting, resulting in a blood morphine level of approximately 0.420 milligrams. Hey, 420! This isn't a laughing matter, why am I doing that? Meaning to achieve a level of 1.52 milligrams, Kurt would need to have taken 203 milligrams of heroin. That's insane, which by the way is 3 times the lethal dose. Now, I don't know about you, being able to operate a shotgun on 3 times the lethal dose of heroin sounds kind of crazy. This amount of heroin would have knocked him unconscious almost immediately. He wouldn't even have time to have put his needles nice and neatly back in his tin, let alone operate a 20 gauge shotgun. Which leads me on to the police report. The report from Seattle Police states that Kurt was found with his hand placed on the barrel of the shotgun, because what usually happens in a death that is so instant is that the muscles in your hands will usually spasm and remain in the spot that they were in when you died, meaning the way they found Kurt with his hand on the gun was where it was when his life ended. Only issue is though, the gun was upside down. Yeah, why is that important, I hear you ask? Well, I remember earlier when I said the casing of the shotgun shell was to Kurt's left hand side. As the gun was upside down, the exit chamber for the casing of the shell was on the right hand side, meaning it was not in the position for the shell to land on the left hand side. That would be near impossible, unless of course by some miracle the casing flew out, hit some kind of obstruction and bounced directly over onto Kurt's coat. But we can see from the crime scene pictures, there was nothing to Kurt's right hand side. The police explanation for this was that the shotgun simply flipped as it was shot. Most experts claim that that isn't possible, and like I said, Kurt's hand was in the position it was in when he passed away. That didn't move at all, so how is that possible? The report also claims that Kurt had to be identified via his fingerprints, due to the disfigurement caused to his head by the gunshot wound. But a statement from an officer who was on the scene on the day claims that anybody who knew Kurt Cobain could easily have known that it was him just from looking at his face. I don't know about you, I've seen enough live leak videos to know that a head doesn't look like a head anymore after a shotgun wound. But you know, make of that what you will. I will add that that statement is from an officer who featured in the documentary Soaked in Bleach, and a lot of people have a lot of different opinions about that documentary, so like I said, and make your own mind up on it. A few things to add here about the police report. Tom Grant, the private investigator, turned up to the scene on the day of the discovery of Kurt's body. He supposedly told the lead investigator that he was at the property the night before searching for Kurt, but the investigator didn't want to hear from Tom. Which is odd, because if you're at a crime scene where a body had been discovered, somebody is telling you that they were there the night before whilst the body was still there, you'd probably want to talk to them, right? But there was one more major clue in that room. There were a lot of claims about the note that Kurt left, and I would like to alliterate once again that they are claims and not confirmed. But I feel like it's necessary to tell you them anyway, so you can make your own mind up. Anyway, here is Kurt Cobain's suicide note. One of the biggest claims about the note is that the handwriting on the bottom portion of the note is not genuine, and that of someone else's, leading to theories that the note was forged, perhaps by Courtney Love, or in fact the assailants that were supposedly hired to kill him. But forensic linguist Chloe Chasky, who actually once again appeared on the documentary Soaked in Bleach, which like I said was very pro-homicide theory, ran the note for a software called SNARE, standing for Suicide Note Assessment Review, which went on to classify it as a genuine suicide note, both the top and bottom portion. The other claim comes from Tom Grant, who states that Courtney's entertainment lawyer Rosemary Carroll told him that prior to April 5th, Love had left her bag at Rosemary's office. In her bag she found an old note written by Kurt, but by its side was sort of a practice sheet, where certain letters from Kurt's note had been traced and then almost practiced side by side, almost as if she was trying to learn or copy his handwriting. When Rosemary eventually saw the genuine suicide note, she claimed immediately that it was a fake, and that it was simply a compiling of all of of Kurt's previous notes, because when people look into it, they see that the top half and the majority of the note is talking about music, and only that little bottom part there is talking about his family. Now for the reason you're probably watching this video. In February 2026, a peer review in the International Journal of Forensic Science challenged the official theory of Cobain's ruling of death. The autopsy and crime scene evidence was reviewed by forensic scientist Brian Barnett, sorry man, I don't know, who after 3 days concluded, and I quote, "This is a homicide." He found organ damage consistent with oxygen deprivation via a heroin overdose, not an instant gunshot death. Unusually clean hands despite a gunshot wound. His hands were here, and they were pretty much clean. The shell case location that we discussed earlier, and again the kit of needles neatly placed back in their original location, with capped syringes as well, and blood patterns on his shirt that suggest his body was moved. I'm not sure if any of you were on Twitter that day, but my god, it erupted. And some of the theories are crazy. So I'm going to tell you them. One user claiming that Love herself was trafficked by individuals with CIA connections. By the way, if I go missing after this video, you know who it was. When Kurt moved to divorce her and reveal all, they moved in and took him out. Again, that's a theory someone put on Twitter. Do not take anything of that, okay? But if that was the case, you'd think if it was people with CIA connections, they would know to put the shell on the correct side. Just a thought. Those aren't even some of the most far-fetched ones either. People are using these pictures of Love to back up their claims. I mean, to be fair, that's not the best picture to be out there of you right now. Far-fetched or the truth in plain sight? You decide. This case is not black and white. There are a lot of things that don't make sense. Are there so many different theories out there just because Kurt was as famous as he was? Or is the case really that mystifying? I mean, Seattle police have refused to reopen the case after this new evidence come out this year. Well, I say evidence, claims, I guess, if you want to be fair. My opinion has always been that Kurt did not take his own life. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of stick for it down there, but that's fine. But I think it's always important to take every side into account and not just focus on one load of evidence without looking at the others. So until this case does reopen, or if it reopens, the speculations into what really happened are just that. Speculation. But I want to hear from you. Do you think I'm right, or do you think I'm wrong? And what do you really think happened? Let me know down there. As always, thank you so much for watching. I've been harrisonay, and I will see you when I see you.
Seems a lot better for some reason, you know. It really does change your attitude about things, you know. I mean, 4 years ago I would have said the classic thing like, you know, how dare someone bring a child into this life, you know. It's completely a terrible way to go, and you know, the world's going to explode any day and stuff like that. But once you fall in love, it's a bit different.